ever get the feeling that like ancient wisdom might actually have some like really relevant stuff for us today? Well, today we're going deep diving into a belief system that's been around for thousands of years, but still feels strangely familiar: Kemetic spirituality. It's so cool how this deep dive lets us explore Kemetic spirituality from two totally different perspectives.
Yeah.
We've got insights from a modern practitioner, Catherine Chestnut, going through her blog, and then these really exciting hints about this upcoming research from a rising star, Sharri Plaza. I know, Sharri Plaza, so cool. Yeah, so Catherine's blog is like getting an insider's perspective, right? On like what drew her to Kemetic spirituality and what it means to her today. One thing that really stood out to me was her experience visiting the Step Pyramid in Cairo. Yeah. It wasn't just some ancient ruin, it was like she could feel the energy of all those centuries of rituals and beliefs, Yeah, it's like this powerful reminder like that these pyramids were just tombs. They were like really like intricately connected to the ancient Egyptian spiritual lives.
Right.
They believed that those structures were a way to connect with the divine. Wow. A physical manifestation of their whole cosmology. Catherine also talks about this whole concept of Ma'at. Yeah, like one of those concepts that sounds simple at first, right?
Yeah.
But then when you really get into it, it's got so much depth to it. Exactly. It's often translated as like truth, balance, and order.
Yeah.
But it's like way more than just a word, right? It's a whole way of life. The ancient Egyptians, they believed that by aligning themselves with Ma'at, they were maintaining harmony in the entire universe. Whoa. So if Ma'at's all about cosmic order, does that mean that like our actions here kind of have like a ripple effect on the universe? Now, that's a question that has been resonating through like centuries of philosophical and spiritual thought.
I bet.
The ancient Egyptians believed that upholding that was everyone's responsibility.
Wow.
It wasn't just about like personal ethics,
Right.
it was about maintaining the balance of the entire cosmos.
Okay.
That's making me think about my to-do list a little differently already. Yeah. Okay, but speaking of like bigger forces at play, what about the Egyptian gods and goddesses, right? We always hear about them as these like larger than life figures, but Catherine talks about having a personal relationship with them. Yeah, and that's a key difference between Kemetic spirituality and some other belief systems.
Yeah.
The Neteru, as they called them, they weren't seen as these distant deities, right? They believed they were active participants in their lives and influencing everything from like the weather, their own personal destinies. Imagine having like a personal relationship with Thoth, the god of wisdom, right? Or Bastet, the protector of the home. That adds like a whole new dimension to what we think about when we hear the word God, Right. It also makes you wonder, if people today are drawn to Kemetic spirituality, does that mean they're also seeking that kind of direct connection, with the divine? Or is it more about like tapping into something ancient and powerful, but like within themselves? That's a question a lot of people are exploring today, and it speaks to the enduring power of these ancient practices. It's not just about history. It's about understanding the human search for meaning and connection, right? Even across millennia. Well, and it seems like there are many like branches or approaches to Kemetic spirituality today. Each with its own perspective on how to connect with those ancient beliefs. Catherine mentions Kemetic orthodoxy and Neterism,
Right.
but she doesn't really explain how they're different, what makes them distinct. So are Kemetic orthodoxy and Neterism, are they like denominations, would you say, within Kemetic spirituality?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Do they have like different practices or different beliefs about the Nibiru? Yeah, for sure. And it's like, it really gets to how like these ancient beliefs are kind of being reinterpreted for today, Right, Kemetic orthodoxy, like the name suggests, is a more structured approach, right? Drawing a lot from those ancient texts and rituals.
Right.
Neterism, on the other hand, tends to be way more flexible.
Okay.
Allowing for more personal interpretations and practices. So less about dogma and more about like a personal connection with the Neteru. Yeah, exactly. You could say that.
Okay, cool.
And just like in any kind of spiritual tradition,
Right.
there's a whole spectrum of beliefs and practices within Kemetic spirituality too.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The really fascinating thing is how this ancient system is resonating with so many people from all walks of life today,
Totally.
It makes you think about what they're finding in these ancient beliefs, what speaks to them in their modern lives. Well, one thing that really stood out to me in Catherine's blog was how important the Nile River is. Oh, yeah. In Kemetic spirituality. She calls it like the lifeblood of ancient Egypt. Right, for sure. And not just geographically, but like spiritually too. The Nile was way more than just a river to the ancient Egyptians. It was the source of life, this symbol of creation and rebirth. Can you imagine like the anticipation as the Nile would flood each year, right? Bringing all that fertile silt that would just nourish the land. Wow. They saw this like the cyclical flooding as a reflection of the cycles of life, death, and renewal. Wow. It was this really powerful symbol that then wove into like their mythology and cosmology. I think the Nile was like a living, breathing entity that just like sustained their whole world. It's true. She also mentions this pillar, the Jed pillar, which I'm not familiar with. What is that? Oh, yeah. The Jed pillar was a symbol of stability and endurance. Well, and it was often associated with Osiris, the god of the underworld, and rebirth. Wow. Think about its shape. It's this tall, narrow column, right, with this really broad base, almost like a tree trunk. Okay. And the ancient Egyptians believed that just as the Jed pillar stood firm, so too did the forces of creation and regeneration endure. Oh, wow. It made sure that life continued. Wow, I can see why a civilization that was so dependent on the Nile cycles would see something so stable. Right. And enduring as sacred. Totally. And it wasn't just the river. Catherine was like completely captivated by all the animal symbolism. Oh, absolutely. In Kemetic spirituality. From the scarab beetles pushing the sun across the sky, yeah, to like protective cats warding off evil. Right. The ancient Egyptians had this like really deep reverence for the natural world. And they saw animals as so much more than just creatures. They were embodiments of divine energy and messengers from the gods. Okay, so like how the ibis, with its long beak, represented Thoth, the god of wisdom and writing. Exactly. Or how the hawk, soaring high above, was associated with Ra, the sun god. Yes. And like their whole world was just infused with this sense of the sacred. Exactly. And for the ancient Egyptians, these weren't just stories, right, or symbols. They were reflections of how interconnected everything was. Right. You know, they really believed that by understanding the natural world and its rhythms, that they were gaining insight into the divine order of the universe. It makes you wonder if our modern disconnect from nature might be why these ancient beliefs are resonating so strongly with people today. Yeah, you know, maybe it's like this longing for that sense of awe and connection. Yeah, for sure, though. A lot of people are like searching for these. Yes, totally. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Catherine hints at these connections between Kemetic spirituality and other faiths. Okay, particularly the Abrahamic traditions. Right. She even draws a parallel between depictions of Isis and Horus to the Madonna and Child. It's fascinating to think about how those ancient belief systems might like intersect, you know? So is it a case of direct influence? Like one culture borrowing from another? It's rare that it's ever that simple. Cultural exchange is way more nuanced than that. Ideas and symbols flowing back and forth across like time and geography. Yeah. And while there are those visual similarities between Isis and Horus and the Madonna and Child, right, it's really important to avoid just jumping to conclusions about direct borrowing. Okay. Instead, it's way more insightful to look at the broader themes, you know? Okay. And the archetypes that might be echoed across different cultures. Right. The image of a mother and child, for instance, represents these really powerful concepts like nurturing, protection, the continuation of life. Right. It's no surprise that those resonate across different belief systems. So it's more about recognizing those like universal human experiences, yeah, that we find just like expressed in different ways throughout history. Exactly. And it's not just about the visual similarities either. Right. Catherine also talks about this potential influence of Mahat on concepts of ethical righteousness in Judaism. Okay. This idea of living in alignment with a divine order, right? Of striving for justice and balance in the world. Yeah. It speaks to those shared human values we were just talking about. It's wild to think that ideas from a civilization as ancient as the Egyptians might still be influencing how we see the world today. I know. It's amazing. And that makes me even more curious about Sharri Plaza's research. Yeah, if she's uncovering these potential connections already, right, imagine what else you might find. That's the amazing thing about research. It's this like ongoing journey of discovery, right? Each new insight opens up more questions, more avenues to explore, Who knows? She may uncover something that totally changes how we understand not only Kemetic spirituality,
Right.
but the interconnectedness of all these different human belief systems throughout history. It sounds like we'll have to have her on for a deep dive once that research is published.
Yeah,
definitely. But for our listener who has been with us on this journey today,
right.
what's the takeaway here? What can we learn from exploring a belief system as ancient as Kemetic spirituality? It reminds us that this human search for meaning, for connection, for something greater than ourselves,
Right.
it's timeless. It's true. And while the answers may take different forms in different cultures and different eras,
Yeah.
the questions themselves, they endure. And it's true. Perhaps by delving into these ancient practices,
Yeah.
by exploring the beliefs and rituals of those who came so long before us,
Yeah.
we gain a deeper understanding of our own spiritual impulses,
Totally.
our own yearning for connection and transcendence. It's true. So if even just fragments of these ancient practices still resonate today, right, thousands of years later, amazing. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What does that say about the human spirit? About our enduring need to make sense of the world around us and find our place in it. Yeah, who knows? Maybe exploring Kemetic spirituality. You may dipping your toes into the Nile of knowledge as we have today, might spark your own personal journey of discovery. It might. And if you are feeling inspired to learn more, Catherine Chestnut's blog is a great place to start. And keep an eye out for Sharri Plaza's upcoming research. Definitely. It sounds like she's about to really shake things up in the field.
Yeah, for sure.
Until then, keep asking questions. Yes, you can explore and diving deep.